Now, as we begin tonight's formal meeting, I'd like to highlight that in addition to our business tonight as the City Council, we also have one business item in our role as the local building authority, I want to make that distinction for the public's understanding and to ensure we have a clear record. As the city's elected officials, council members don't just serve on the City Council, but we also serve as the local building authority board. Think of it as a council wearing two different hats. And now we'll begin with the business of the local business authority, and then we'll change our hats and move on to the City Council business items. Thank you for joining us. We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have with us the coolest kids in all of District 1, the Fair Park Youth City. They're here with us today. If they will come to the front. All right. They might be my favorite constituents in all of the city. Would you all please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Everyone stand. Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for spending even more time here than you usually do. Okay, as the local building authority, I'll look for a motion to approve the LBA consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Councilmember Pui, a second by Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye. Oh, no, I'm not opposed. My thing is broken.
Can we get technical assistance? We have at least three council members with broken microphones.
Oh, no, mine is on.
Okay. While we move on, can we please get some technical assistance? That motion passes unanimously. This concludes our local building authority meeting. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn as a local building authority. Gosh, I want to say that word long. And to convene as the City Council.
Move to adjourn as the LBA and convene as the City Council.
I have a motion from Councilmember Wharton, a second from Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, we are now convened as the Salt Lake City Council. Welcome to everyone who is joining us tonight. Thank you for filling up all these seats. Thank you, Westside. I love having you here. If you're joining us for the public comment opportunities later on the agenda, we are set up to accept your comments in person only. I want to mention and review our rules of decorum. These are the guidelines that the City Council has always had in place to help our meeting progress in an orderly, civil, and efficient way so that everyone has the opportunity to voice their opinions without feeling intimidated. In order to achieve this, our rules of decorum begin from the moment you arrive in our meeting. First, we respect all points of view and we welcome any new insights. Second, while giving your comments, please be respectful, avoid yelling, profanity, or making racial slurs, obscene, or defamatory remarks. If you violate this rule, you'll be asked to stop speaking. If you feel you need to use profanity or disrespectful remarks to express your point, you're welcome to contact us by mail at P.O. Box 145-476, Salt Lake City, Utah, 84114-5476. Or you can email us at council.comments@slcgov.com. Or you can leave us at 801-535-7654. I majored in music. I can sing opera. I got this.
Mine is on now. Cindy, does yours work?
So this brings us to item D2. The council will approve the work session meeting minutes of February 7th, 2023, February 14th, 2023, as well as the formal meeting minutes of February 7th, 2023. I'll look for a motion.
Move for approval. Second.
I have a motion from Pui, a second from Morton. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We will now turn over the time to Councilmember Pui to recognize the Die Hard Pickleballers Club of SLC.
So I would like to, highlight a group of people in our community that are very engaged, and it's a sport that's unifying, and it's a sport that is bringing them together, but not only bringing them together for themselves, but for the whole community. So the Die Hard Pickleballers Club was organized in February 18, 2022. Latu Himi Lee is the club president with 10 committee members, 83 adults, 32 youth, engaged individuals make up the whole club. So there's a big club here on the west side, but not only on the west side, but I think they all feel like they belong here. This is home. The traveling club competed in 2 pickleball tournaments in 2022. Their record is 1-1. Their next tournament is in Utah next Friday, April 21st and Saturday 22nd, against a team from Foster City, California. Of course, we have to win. And we're going to be there supporting. The club wants to share their love of pickleball with the entire community. It is a sport that can be enjoyed by people all ages and abilities. They want to promote physical activity, healthy lifestyles through the fun of social connecting sport. So thank you, all of you, and we're going to present you with a resolution. What is it?
If you all would like to come up. All right, so now we're going to move on to item D3. The Youth City Government will present the Youth State of the City Address. We always love to welcome the Youth City Government students who will be our future leaders. We have students here with us today participating in the Youth State of the City Address. Please state your name before you give your speech so we know who you are. You guys can come on up.
This one? Okay. Can I steal this really quick? Hi, my name is Leah Uman, and I'm a junior at West High School, and I live in Salt Lake City's Council District 2. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. I'd like to thank my fellow Youth City government members, Representative Angela Romero, and the woman who has the hard task of wrangling us all, Juanita Escareño, who does a pretty good job. This is my third year with Youth City government, and one of the most important things that I've learned is just how resilient we can be. As youth in the city, we've seen the world shift, crumble, and grow right beneath our feet, and it's pretty overwhelming at times. But through it all, we learned that despite what people may tell us, we still have the power. We can host youth summits on issues that we see our education system failing us with. We can organize protests against bills like SB 16 and walk the steps of the Capitol to bring focus back to the issues that mean the most to us. Today's youth have a specific voice that cannot be stifled. It's a power to read right from wrong, to view the world as if it's black and white, without the myriad of biases that affect the decisions made in the political sphere today. We see issues through a lens of different priorities. We're not fond of the rules put in place by the past, and we see no issue with taking a stand against the way things have been done. And the more we know that our voice is being heard, the louder we will be. We appreciate you guys giving us a space to be heard and seen. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hamda Ibrahim, and I'm a senior at West High. I live in District 1. I am originally from Somalia and moved here when I was 10 years old. Growing up in a refugee camp, it was very hard for me to form an identity due to all the violence and constant human rights violation that surrounded me from a young age. When I came to America, all I wanted was separation. Separation from all the traumas I endured and from the loudness of living in an active war zone. But as I grow older, I realized separation isn't what I needed, but relief. Separation implied forgetting my culture and my people and turning a blind eye to the wrongdoings of the few in power. Choosing relief has given me my never-ending passion for women's rights. I am an advocate for awareness and action for female genital mutilation, otherwise known as FGM, and preventing child marriage in third world countries. I talked about the topic of FGM when I served on the consent panel for YCG's 14s by Teens Youth Summit with Utah Coalition Against Sexual Assault and Planned Parenthood. It felt empowering to share my story and the stories of the many Somali women and girls that die from genital mutilation yearly. On the panel, we also covered boundaries, what consent looks like in different forms, that being body language, verbal communication, and tone, and what no means. I personally love the YCG experience because no matter what issues you're passionate about and what's in your heart, Juanita and Representative Romero will find a way to give your voice a platform to be heard in the city. The diversity of youth in the YCG experience is something to be celebrated, and I hope to be continued. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Julia. I'm a senior at Roland Hall, and I live in Salt Lake City Council District 3. I care deeply about reproductive rights. As someone affected by access to abortions and birth control, the country's broad crackdown on reproductive rights concerns me. When I look into my community, I feel more profound concern. Governor Spencer Cox signed legislation in March that will make abortion functionally inaccessible. As a student and also as a menstruator, it concerns me that we do not view abortion as life-saving, yet we allow students to walk the halls of their schools in fear of their life being taken away from them as a result from lax and unreasonably unregulated gun laws. When I walked the streets of downtown Salt Lake City in late June, I was flooded with emotions of betrayal. I felt unwelcome in a community that would endanger women and force individuals to receive dangerous off-market operations or be forced to give birth to a child they may not have the resources to take care of. The overturn of Roe v. Wade caused panic for many women living in our city and our state. My worst concerns about how Utah would respond to the decision became my reality. Despite this cruel human rights violation, I found some peace in Youth City Government. A program that aims to empower youth, Youth City Government also became a safe haven for discussing concerns that seemed to be ignored at higher levels. YCG was a place for reflection, empowerment, community connection, and participation. Going to YCG months after Roe v. Wade was overturned, up to now, approaching the 1-year mark, I am just as concerned. I still worry that my community is reversing progress that took decades to accomplish. I still wonder why women's safety is being sacrificed. But one thing that YCG has changed about this horrific situation is the extent to which I feel that change is possible.
Hello, my name is Rodrigo Fernandez Esquivias. I'm a senior at Roland Hall and a member of YCG. This session, Utah's legislative majority passed blatantly transphobic legislation, SB 16, which bans minors from accessing life-saving gender-affirming care, including hormone therapy and gender-affirming surgeries. This is one of the most abhorrent pieces of legislation we have seen in recent years. The passage and signing of this bill has had chilling effects on our schools, community, and city. I want to make one thing very clear. The American Medical Association, the American Association of Pediatrics, the Endocrine Society, the American Association of Psychiatrists all recommend these procedures for minors experiencing gender dysphoria. To quote Jon Stewart, when your child has pediatric cancer, your doctor references the guidelines set by the American Association of Pediatrics. Which medical organizations agree with these lawmakers? I was present during the House Committee hearing on SB 16, and the claims the witnesses were making did not comport with any of the recent medical data. Our lawmakers appear to be cherry-picking which medical guidelines to support. These lawmakers claim they are protecting kids, but how exactly are they protecting them? We don't wait to medicate kids with depression and ADHD until they're 18. Why? The medications prescribed for depression have side effects, the same as hormones prescribed to trans kids. Of course, most medications have side effects. Depression and ADHD are in the same category in the DSM-5 as gender dysphoria. So why do we treat them differently? How is postponing peer-reviewed medical data protecting kids? Study after study has shown that discriminatory legislation such as SB 16 increases feelings of marginalization and takes a toll on mental health. We have one of the highest teen suicide rates in the country. So why are we banning treatments that are proven to have positive mental health outcomes and presenting it as a legitimate solution to solving our teen mental health crisis? If there was a pill that had the same mental health outcomes as gender-affirming care, every single doctor and lawmaker in the country would be recommending it. So what are we doing? What are we doing? The state has no right to interject itself into somebody's body or interfere in medical practices. I hope in the future we can come together as a city and state to challenge legislation that erases members in our community. At our recent 4 Teens by Teens Youth Summit, we partnered with the ACLU of Utah and discussed trans rights and how it impacts trans youth. The panel discussion detailed current anti-trans legislation and how to engage in youth activism and how to make the world a safer place for trans and LGBTQ+ people. I'm thankful to be a part of YCG because the program supports basic human rights for all in our city. Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name is Kate Love, and I'm a senior at East High School, and I live in Council District 6. I have had the opportunity to be on youth city government for the past 3 years. Last summer, I also had the opportunity to intern for all of you in the city council office. In youth city government, I have seen firsthand the power and potential of young people to positively impact our city. By providing opportunities for youth to participate in the decision-making process, we can harness their creativity, passion, and fresh perspectives to address the challenges and opportunities facing Salt Lake City. I urge the City Council to continue to actively seek out and value the input of young people, whether it be through youth councils like ours, internships, community and city council meetings, or other channels of engagement. Let us create an inclusive and participatory environment where young people feel heard, valued, respected, and encouraged to contribute their ideas and opinions. By doing so, we will not only cultivate a stronger sense of civic pride and ownership among our youth, but also ensure a more vibrant, resilient, and forward-thinking city for years to come. Lastly, I would like to thank Representative Romero and Juanita for all the hard work and time they put in for us each week. They do so much to ensure we get the most out of the Youth City Government program. On a more personal note, I would like to thank you all. I would like to thank you and the City Council staff for all the opportunity and kindness I was met with as your intern.
Can we get a picture with them, please?
Oh, Youth City, come back. We would like to do a picture.
Don't sit down. You don't get out of this that easy.
We also want to acknowledge that they are missing one of theirs, Wild Violet Badger, who has been participating in this. We want to make sure that we mention. So let's come up and do a picture. All right, I feel like we're not going to top that. We might as well go home now. But we do have Representative Angela Romero and Juanita Escareño, who work to mentor our YCG students. Thank you so much for all of your hard work. Representative Romero, would you like to make any remarks?
I just really want to thank Juanita. She was my intern, and then she came on as city staff. And she's the one that works directly with the youth more than I do. And I want to thank the youth for being brave, to sharing their voices, to tell me what they think is important when it comes to community. A lot of times we want to talk about issues that they don't want to talk about, and these were the issues that most concerned them. They're really concerned for their state, for their country, for their well-being of their friends, and so I wanted to make sure I didn't silence their voice, and so what you heard was all them. So thank you.
Madam Chair, can I say something real quick?
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you as well, Representative Romero. This is my favorite time of year is when I get to hear the Youth City address of the youth, because it is always so incredibly impactful, so incredibly, it gives me chills to think of how strong of their voices they are, and they could not have done that without you and Juanita to really guide them and let them, as one of them said, let them have a platform for their voices to be heard. And this is so important. They are the leaders of our future, and you've done such an amazing job with this program, and it's great to see people coming back and returning. We've seen Daya 3 years in a row now, and it's amazing. And then to watch them go on to do other things within government. So thank you for your leadership. Juanita, thank you for all of the work you do with those teens. They're incredible, so thank you so much.
I'm very proud of all of them and all the youth I've worked with for the 22 years I've worked for city government, so I appreciate you always supporting me in everything I do, as well as being a city employee. Thank you.
And while we're in this moment of gratitude, we also would like to recognize the Utah State Fair Park for their assistance in preparation with our meetings tonight. We particularly appreciate their support of local businesses. If you joined us for the meal before this, it was provided by Prime Corn, which is one of the international market caterers. So make sure you pay attention to the schedule and come back and get more of their food when the international market reopens. But thank you all. Okay. All right, let's get down to business, friends. Now we're going to begin our public hearings. If you wish to speak to the public hearings, please complete a comment card and provide it to one of our staff members. Staff, could you please raise your hand right now? The people with their hands up have comment cards if you need to complete one. I'm going to attempt to call these names 2 at a time. This is not something I usually do when we're in the other building, so I'm going to attempt to do this well. The first person will come to the microphone and they will speak. The second person, please be ready to follow them when they're done. You'll be called forward in the order the cards were handed in. If you need a card, please raise your hand now. I'm going to remind you that we aim to keep these hearings a safe and welcoming place for anyone wishing to comment in any way. So if you want to express agreement with someone, we're going to abstain from doing things like clapping or cheering. We're going to do that by smiling or something much more quiet. But we want to make sure that everyone has the space to express themselves, even if they're the only person in the room who shares their opinion, and I want everyone to feel safe. So please, we will be observing both time and decorum during this hearing. All right, so we're going to move into our public hearings. Items E1 to E12 are grant applications, but they will be heard as one public hearing. Before we begin taking comments, I will turn the time over to Sylvia Richards, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give us a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The city applies for and receives grants which pay for some city programs, and the council holds a public hearing for each grant to inform the public and give an opportunity for public comment. The first grant tonight is the Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities Grant, which would fund seismic improvements on private single-family dwellings, including duplexes, and the recruitment of homeowners who qualify as having low to moderate income. Next is the Public Art Challenge Wake the Great Salt Lake Grant, which would fund a series of major artworks across the city created by world-renowned artists as well as local artists to point out environmental and social justice, water conservation, air quality, ecology of the Great Salt Lake, and other items. Number 3 is the Education and Outreach Grant, which would fund part-time education specialists to conduct reuse, reduce presentations at schools and business tabling events, and it would also fund 2 waste recycling equipment operators to load and transport e-waste to community recycling events. And number 4 is the Marathon Community Investments Grant, which would fund the purchase of 1 for the Northwest Teen programs. The 5th grant is the First Responder Mental Health Services Grant, Wellness and Peer Support Program, which would provide the purchase of a neuro-optimal and neurofeedback system for its wellness and peer support program. 6th is the Leading City Procurement Reform Grant, Bloomberg Center for Cities at Harvard, which would fund training to emphasize procurement as a more central city function. And grant items 7 through 12 are grant applications for school-age summer quality expansion for the Sorensen Unity Center, the Sorensen Multicultural Center, Ottinger Hall, Liberty Park, Fairmont Park, and Central City Youth Programs. And that's all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. I have 2 comment cards for this. We'll start with Gail Dawes, and then we'll hear from Mr. Bernie Hart.
My name's Gail Dawes. Thank you. Welcome to our community. I'm from the Navajo tribe. I'm an elder in this community, our wisdom keeper. I was fumbling through my notes. Thank you for the young people that spoke to us. They're such a blessing. They're sacred and holy to us. We wrap around our love, our prayers for all our children in our community every day. Our youth, our community need the youth city work. We support that in every way. A van, people that provide the services every day throughout the year, year-round. I see a building right on 600 South, and I think that area, some of the area was demolished, but we want that to always pick up all our children, involve them in all the activities. It's really hard to speak on this when we have single moms that need so much help. We lost a lot of people during COVID. One thing that we say is be a good relative. Being a good relative, providing livelihood for an ever-changing society. Right now, we need partners like Youth City. We need to trust. They need to build trust, and the Youth City does that. That is an understanding that we have in our community village. Our leaders need that, and our children are there for
Ms.
them.
Dawes. That was 2
They are
minutes.
the light and the salt.
Thank you,
to
ma'am.
have.
Mr. Burney.
Nice to be here on the west side. A lot of good things being funded by the city. A lot of people have things they're passionate about and care about and out to help a lot of people. And that's true about all of Salt Lake City. A lot of people doing good out there and trying to do good. But I have something I've been working on, and it's to ensure, in a way, that the programs that the city funds actually help people. Do they do what they say they're going to do? Because if they do, you're helping a lot of people. But if they're not, you're giving programs to money to programs that are well-intended and really our people are passionate about, but they may not be accomplishing as much as other programs are, and there's only so many resources. So without monitoring how the grant money is spent and the effectiveness of it reaching some type of goal set by the grant provider and that being monitored, you may be doing a disservice to a lot of people in Salt Lake City that need help. And there are a lot of people who need help. So all I'm asking is some oversight as to how grant money is spent, and is it accomplishing its goal? Is it helping people? So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Burney. Thank you to everyone who commented. Council, I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and refer items B1 through B12 to a future consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui, a second from Councilmember Fowler. Any discussion? Yes, Councilmember Dugan.
It should be items E1 to E12.
Oh, thank you for that correction. Yes. E1, I'm sorry, yes. The motion should reference items E1 to E12. Thank you. Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? The motion carries unanimously. This brings us to our next public hearing. Item E13 is an ordinance for downtown building height and street activation text amendment. Before we begin taking comments, I will first turn the time over to Brian Fulmer, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a proposal to amend the city's zoning ordinance related to building heights and pedestrian engagement in the downtown plan area. The administration's proposal also recommends changes to the design standards and design review processes in city code. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We will start with Cindy Cromer and then Mr. Bernie Hart.
My name is Cindy Cromer, and I'm stuck in my own version of the movie Groundhog Day, doomed to complain about the same issues over and over again until someday my complaint is viewed as precisely correct by at least 4 members of this city council. About 7 years ago, I teamed up with an architect, a planner, and an attorney to deal with the FBU-N2 zone. It had been applied citywide after being studied only in the Central Ninth area. We had to engage the state ombudsman for property rights and get assistance from Judy Short regarding stepbacks, because the zone had none unless it was next to FBU-N1. And the use of FBU-N2 was adopted citywide and then proposed in the Central City Historic District. The FBU-N2 is a blank check for developers and is inappropriate for use in historic districts with lower density zoning without additional limitations. That is precisely where the city has applied it, south of Trolley Square and at Western Gardens site, where the blocks are two of the finest collections of contributory structures in the Central City Historic District. I cannot find any information in the packet which gives me confidence that the city is not making the same mistake again, failing to consider the consequences of using the FBU-N2 outside the area for which it was designed. It was never intended for use in a historic district, but the city has now mapped it in the Central City District repeatedly. The map you have focuses exclusively on the downtown area. I think the proposed changes will apply more broadly and will include Central City and other low to medium density neighborhoods where additional height is not appropriate, such as Capitol Hill and the southwest portion of the avenues. Number one, I'm asking you to keep the public hearing open for reasons that the staff has articulated. Number two, please restrict any changes to the area covered by the map in your packet. I do not believe that the consequences elsewhere have been considered. And finally, if this ordinance is too complicated for me to figure out, maybe, just maybe, it is too complicated. Just tell developers that if they want additional height, they have to build affordable housing. Thanks.
Thank you. Bernie Hart and then Doug Dancy.
I remember George Chapman talking to everything that ever happened in Salt Lake City. I don't know where George is, but I miss him. Building heights. I don't know if the city and the mayor and people in the city that make decisions are considering that growth is not always the best way to solve any problems or deal with what's happening in the environment and in our community and Utah in general. As far as we may not have a water problem this year, but we will be having a water problem. It's going to get worse and worse the more people we come in and the more we accommodate. Use higher building, encourage growth in any way. So I'm just sort of here to nudge that kind of decision making along, and maybe it's time to include some of those discussions in your considerations of what we do in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bernie. We're going to hear from Doug Dancy, followed by Jake Seastrand.
Hello, my name is Doug Danzy. For those who don't know who I am, I worked for the city in the planning department from July 1984 until 11/59/59, 2019 into 2020 when I retired, so almost 36 years. And the reason I mention this is I was a staffer when the original downtown zoning was written, the complete new zoning ordinance in 1995, and also when it was updated to include D4 and the gateway zones just a few years later. So the first thing I want to say, I'm generally supportive of upgrading and doing new things and bringing up to modern times. In 1995, we didn't have a lot of tools, so our design controls were pretty basic, pretty rudimentary, and I'm hoping that 30 years later that somebody can do a better job. I think it's good to go from kindergarten to university, so I'm fully in supportive of upgrading the ordinance to new things. Of course, I have my biases, and there are a couple things that I would want to have issues with, but I also want to say I'm enthusiastic about increasing heights to the south of downtown. Even in 1995, the boundary for D1 was drawn where it was because it was assumed that was a reasonable area to fill. And it's been 30 years. Policy has always been, as downtown grows, it should move south. As part of this proposal, there's not a proposal to raise the height in D2, but I was told that's because there's an assumption that D2 will just become D1, for example, with IHC and other projects, and I'm good with that. Now I'm going to get to the reason why I'm here is the Gateway Mixed Use Zone was written very specifically because it was to be in the forefront of downtown. So when people came in from the airport and from I-15, it was meant to be the foreground of the skyline. It wasn't meant to be a wall against the freeway where you couldn't see anything. There's been policies historically of maintaining the view corridor of the LDS Temple spires when coming from I-80 or I-15. It's not going to be viewable from everywhere all the time, but that is a signature building on Salt Lake City skyline. And it's interesting because I have a friend from Montreal staying with me right now, and I mentioned this to him. He said, yeah, the LDS Temple, everybody knows that's Salt Lake. That is Salt Lake. And so if additional height, so the height levels were very thought through in the 90s, and that's the reason why. I'm not inherently opposed to raising them or the D3. The D3 was drawn where it is because it's a National Historic District meant to protect kind of that scale. I'm not opposed to additional height, but I would like to see a criteria included in the design review that simply asks the planning commissioner or the reviewers to say, what is the impact on the view corridor of this additional height? I drove into Salt Lake from the airport.
I think we're at time.
Oh, did I hear? Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
We'd be happy to receive an email with the rest of your ideas.
Thank you.
All right, Jake Seastrand.
Good evening. My name is Jake Seastrand, and me and my husband are present. This is our first city council meeting, so thank you to the council members for coming here. My comment is just more about hoping that the city takes priority in oversight of projects that may have an impact in residential neighborhoods such as mine. My husband and I live on 300 North and 600 West, and we've just noticed that the large development projects that are kind of going up around us seem to just continually creep into our neighborhood. And I know there's a lot of good balance. There should be balance between high density so that everyone can have a place to live, but we've noticed that that brings a lot of congestion, construction, and not necessarily a lot of good positives. So we just hope that the city council is providing some type of oversight to these developments that come in and want to buy up single family homes and then turn them into a large, tall residential building. One particular thing of note that bothered me and my husband was on our street there was several single family homes that housed families probably of lower income, and they were, bought up. Those homes were bought up and demolished, and it's just an empty lot now. And so it's really discouraging that they had to leave their homes for some type of project that hasn't even started. So if there is some type of oversight for these kind of larger real estate projects, that would be great. I repeated myself like 5 times because I'm nervous, but thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for coming to the meeting. All right. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak to this item but didn't get to turn in a card? All right, then I'm safe to ask, I'll look for a motion.
Second.
Councilmember Dugan moved to continue this to a future meeting. Councilmember Pui seconded. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. All right, we will move on to item E4. It's an ordinance to rezone at 792 West, 900 South, and at 875 South and 800 West. Before we begin taking comments, I will turn the time over to Brian Fulmer, Council Staff Policy Analyst, to give a short introduction.
This is a proposal to amend the zoning maps map for the properties mentioned previously in City Council District 2 from their current M1 or light manufacturing zoning to RMU or residential mixed use. The petitioner's stated objective is to construct a fourplex on each of the vacant parcels. Current zoning does not permit this use.
Thank you, Brian. I have one registered commenter, Cameron Broadbent.
Hi, it's good to be with you again tonight. My name is Cameron Broadbent. I just wanted to come out and publicly just say and just commit to the public that I plan to do what I say I'm going to do. Half of this block is already, just for the record, I'm the property owner of both vacant lots. These lots have been vacant for a number of years. My wife and I noticed that these have been neglected and attracting lawlessness for some time. For the last year or so, we've begun to mow the property and actually keep it in compliance with today's zoning to keep it to 6 inches or lower of grass. But I just wanted to publicly say that I'm committed to developing the missing middle in the west side. More and more multifamily complexes are going up that are 4, 5, and 6, 7 stories tall, and I'm committed to building something, regardless that it costs a little bit more, that's actually modest and fits in with the neighborhood. And with the zoning, half the block already RMU, just asking for what's already there. Just along those lines, I just wanted to let the public know that I've already committed to this and recorded a deed restriction with the Salt Lake City as the beneficiary of that deed restriction that limits the height to 35 feet. Thank you.
Thank you. My microphone's turn. All right, thank you, sir. I'll look for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future council meeting.
I've got a motion from Councilmember Pui, and I heard Fowler first on the second, so we're going to call her a second. Any discussion on this? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We're going to move on to our next public hearing. It's E15, an ordinance on the airport Title 16 amendments. Before we begin taking comments, I will turn the time over to Brian Fulmer, who's standing in for our beloved Sam Owen, who are both council staff policy analysts, to give a short introduction.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is a comprehensive repeal and replacement of City Code Chapter 16 that regulates the airport. The code addresses things like security, lease provisions, rules for concession sales, standards for general aviation, and other requirements related to operating the airport. The proposed update includes changes in the following categories. Number 1, removal of sections separately addressed by federal regulations. Number 2, merging ground transportation regulations into Chapter 5.71 of City Code. Third, utilizing a separate document to cover minimum standards for commercial aeronautics. And fourth, another category described as general updates. The council instructed staff to further review the changes at the first work session for this item. There is not yet a timeline determined for this item's next steps. Thank you.
I will look for a motion.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I move the council close the public hearing and defer action to a future meeting.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilwoman Fowler, a second from Councilmember Pui. Any discussion on this? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Way to survive all those public hearings, friends, and with decorum. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to potential action items. F1 is regarding an ordinance for the Homeless Resource Center text amendment. I will look for a motion. Councilmember Dugan has moved that we defer action to a future council meeting, and Councilmember Valdemoros has seconded. Is there any discussion on this?
And Madam Chair, the reasoning for my desire, honest mic works. Thank you very much, and I appreciate the discussions we've had on this text amendment, and the reason for my desire to defer it to a future council meeting is because I want to make sure that the public and the council is clear on the size of the HRCs that we're talking about. There were some concerns about anything under 40 and over and up to 200. And I want to make sure that we're clear on that's basically any HRC between 1 and 200 people would be considered the same, and they have to go through the same processes and the same steps across the board. The second concern was the questions that we had about procedures and processes for firearms, and there's some state laws that we have to abide by, and I want to make sure that the community and the council understands those concerns and also the laws that we have to abide by. Third is the reporting requirements. There was also some concerns about reporting on the safety and the security of the residents in the HRCs, the residents nearby, and the businesses nearby. And we had a lot of intent, and I think we have some intent languages on those security and safety concerns, but I want to make sure that we're clear on all those initiatives that we want to put forward and how we report those. And the last point is, a year and a half ago or so, when we put the moratorium on the HRCs, the city and maybe a couple other smaller cities were going solo on our efforts to support the unsheltered across the state. And we were doing a very good job, and we were spending a lot of money. But since that time, through the help of the mayor and the council here, we've worked hard with the state to get more funding and more stricter rules on the HRC, on the homeless shelter problem. And since that time, we've come through this process. And in the last year, past year, HB 440 passed. And with that bill, 2 counties, one north of us and one south of us, now are required to have an HRC. So I believe that the HRC concern with the city will also be reduced because of the extra effort being put forward in other counties. So I just want to make those comments now, and we can discuss this and defer it to further action. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. Anyone else have any comments or discussion? All right, so the motion we're voting on is to defer action to a future council meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item F2, we're regarding a funding allocation for a 1-year action plan for community development, other federal grants for fiscal year 23 to 24. I'll look for a motion.
Ooh, it worked. Sorry, Madam Chair. I move that the council approve a resolution adopting 2023-2024 annual action plan funding allocations attached to the motion sheet as Exhibit A for CDBG, ESG, Home, and HOPWA. I further move that it is the intent of the council to review the city's various community land trust and shared equity programs, such as the Westside Community Initiative and Perpetual Housing Fund, and work with the administration to evaluate how to deliver this service most efficiently.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Fowler, a second from Councilmember Mono. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're moving on to item F3. It's an ordinance to rezone and master plan amendment at 865 South, 500 East. Please note that the 2 motions we should be considering are move that we adopt the ordinance or move that we decline to adopt the ordinance.
Madam Chair, I move that the council adopt the ordinance.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Pui, a second from Councilmember Mono. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye. Nay. Aye, nay.
I've got Councilmember Mono and Pui in the affirmative, and negative from Fowler, Wharton, Valdemoros, and Dugan. The motion fails. We'll move on to comments. First, we're going to do questions for the mayor or the mayor's very skillful and wonderful stand-ins. We have Chief of Staff Rachel Otto and Deputy Chief of Staff Lindsay Nicola with us today. Thank you for joining us. Council, any comments, questions? I'd like to give another public thank you to the administration for moving so swiftly, decisively, and skillfully in addressing the flooding that happened, for rallying our constituents with really firm direction in addressing the flooding, and for instilling faith that even if it gets a little hairy as things melt, that we're going to make it through. Thank you all. Anyone else? All right, so now we're going to move on to comments to the City Council. This is a comment period for general topics and items that were not scheduled for a public hearing tonight. So I went over the city's rules of decorum earlier, and those rules apply here as well. And I'm telling y'all, I'm going to get my mommy voice on, and I'm going to enforce it tonight, all right? Just like the public hearing, those wishing to make a comment will be called forward in the order the comment cards have been turned in. We're going to call them two at a time. First person, please come forward to the microphone, and the second person, please be ready to follow. Comment time is limited to 2 minutes per person. You cannot combine time with another speaker. As a reminder, please help create a civil and respectful meeting. If you need a comment card, please raise your hand now. Our staff will get them to you. And now we will start calling. All right, we're going to start with Roland Vick, followed by El Maya Lavatai. Can you push the button? Oh no. Does this look?
Hello, my name is Roland Vick. I live in the Glendale district. I'd like to speak about representation and not just the city council. I'm talking about the Utah legislature and the federal Congress. Seems like everybody thinks that they know best for everybody. The Utah legislature implies that all the time with their laws that pass without any input from the general public. It seems like money talks to them, campaign contributions, whatever, and I have a solution to that. Our taxes talk. The one way we can get around that is to withhold our taxes until April 15th. Go to your employer, ask for a new W-4 form on line 5, write in 99 dependents. No federal taxes, no state taxes will be withheld. You take that money, you put it into your bank account under a tax account or your credit union under a tax account. When April 15th rolls around, that's when you pay your taxes. In the meantime, you're also collecting interest on that money. That tells you you're not happy with what's going on. At the same time, we all take a bite because your taxes pay for everything, police department, fire, streets, all the public works departments. That's telling the government that you're not happy with what's going on. And by the way, the word can get around social discourse over your phones. You've got everybody on board because a lot of people are not happy with their representatives.
Thank you. I love you guys. We're not doing that. We're going to silent approval. Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to El Mai Lavatai and to Lauren Schetzelar.
Thank you. This is also my first meeting. Just a little bit about I was for Salt Lake City Police Department, 1989 to 2009. So I'm concerned about our neighborhood. Here on behalf of the diehard pickleballers, and what we're doing is we're trying to convert the tennis courts, not all of them, but a lot of them, because we see that they're not being utilized. Not only in Glendale, but also in Rose Park. Property here in Rose Park. So I have a big interest in safety, neighborhood, and when there's people playing, when you have to drive clear, lights there. We have to drive west to West Valley, all these other communities, while, you know, the tennis courts are just sitting here. They're not being used. So I'm mostly here, but thank you.
Thank you. And first meeting. Love you guys. We're not doing that. All right. We're going to move on to Lauren Schetzler and then followed by George H. Zinn.
You did good. I pronounce it Schetzler. I'm Lauren. I like to walk, and when I'm walking, I walk fast. I walk these neighborhoods every day. Every day. When I walk fast, I'm walking in the street because of all the trip hazards around here, this broken up sidewalks. I know that there's laws on the books about parking on the sidewalk, about scooters on the sidewalk. It's called a sidewalk for a reason, right? Almost 2 years ago, my wife had a brain aneurysm. I'm lucky she's still with me. When she's walking with me, we're walking slow and we're on the sidewalk. And if we got to go around things, debris on the sidewalk, snow and ice, I know that I'm blowing in the wind, but that's my thing. One other thing, everyone here can volunteer to help. There's an organization, a new organization in the area. It's called My Hometown. And we're meeting on the 22nd, which is Earth Day. We'll be cleaning up some areas around here, and we're trying to help out our neighbors and clean up our community. And if you know anyone that needs something, can't afford it, new roof, a ramp for a wheelchair, whatever, they'll put it together for you if you get a hold of them. I do have a couple of flyers if anybody would like one. In fact, I'll leave them here on the table.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your help, and
thank you.
Let's enforce some laws, okay? A lot of speeders and thank you.
All right, we will move on to George H. Zinn and Luke Olstad.
Hello, Council. I appreciate your listening to us and taking this time for us. I want to remind you real briefly, too, that you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should be listening twice as much to us. I've been in Salt Lake City for probably, 40 years, and I think right now, and I've seen a lot of change. I'm from inside looking out, and I see an image problem here that I think we really need to look at. And a lot of that is how outsiders look at us and how that we're presented as, we want to get on the national and world stage and attract a lot of things that are coming in here. I just heard about a baseball park, things like that. That's big stuff. And, one time I just walked into a store, I saw some shirts that kind of bothered me, and I know that the council really has, and the mayor probably has no influence as to how Salt Lake is marketed from the outside, although I didn't particularly like a shirt that said SL/UT. It just kind of directed me in the wrong way, and when I see people that come in from the outside and they go, well, is that really what Salt Lake is? And is that what I know it's a clever play on words, but to me, I kind of looked at it and goes, no, I don't think that's what Salt Lake City is all about, and I just don't think that's how we'd want to present ourselves, but people can do what they want, I'm sure, but we can also, say, well, we think of it different, and maybe we just don't really prefer Salt Lake as being called SL/UT. That's not what we are. That's not what we're all about. So, and a lot of those other things, but I wanted to bring that forward to the city and let them know that, that's what we see and that's what we, That's what a lot of people see from the outside, and I get a lot of talk from people because I travel a lot. So I said my piece, and I wish you luck. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, we will move on to Luke Elstad, followed by Carl Moore.
Hello, City Council. My name is Luke Olstead. I'm a relatively new resident of Salt Lake City, about 1 year, on May 16th, something like that. I hate to have my first session come and start off by complaining about things, so I'm going to say a couple nice things. I really like the city parks around here, especially Liberty and Sugar House. Very nice for walking. Really love the city, how walkable a lot of places are. I also really love the Salt Lake City Hive Pass program. Got here with that today, so I want to lead out with a couple nice things that I really like and keep those things going. I really love it. Couple not so nice things though. Area where I lived, I thought I could have called the city and wrote these in, but I saw that you guys were conveniently coming here, and thank you for doing that. I live over at the North Temple and Redwood area, and the track station there. Just wanted to bring up a few things. I know the UTA has a lot to do with this, but I thought maybe we could get some pull through, or maybe there could be some pull through this council. The lights have been off there for a month, and it's been a bit of a safety hazard. I've almost been creamed by a semi going across, running the red light at the crosswalk there. Might be from visibility. There's also been a lot of dirt track out from a development coming in over there, like a lot of dirt track out. Dust has been a major issue. I've seen some stormwater, as far as SWIP and stormwater violations that could be happening, but they are cleaning it up. It has been cleaned recently, and I don't know if the permits department's been on that and doing a good job. I'd like to say it's the permits doing a good job, but there's that. Lights of the station, Hive Pass. Also, I wanted to just bring up air quality. I'm bringing this up on behalf of my partner as well. Air quality is sometimes an issue. We live near the truck stop nearby, and living between the truck stop, the airport, and a bunch of busy highways, there's been some air quality issues, especially when semis are idling all night long. I know.
Time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Have
and
a good
welcome.
night.
All right, Carl Moore, followed by Larry Sugars.
All right, I'm calmer this time. So my name's Carl Moore, and I'm a co-founder of Pandos, co-founder of SLC Air Protectors, new chairperson of Unsheltered Utah, also co-founder of Ours, feed unsheltered people all the time, and I want to say thanks to my sister back there, Gail, for starting this out, because she actually calmed me down in the fact that we're all related. And that's really the core of everything that I do, is because we're all related. And I appreciate you, Representative Dugan, for acknowledging what it is. I want to state that my organizations are still opposed to the new HRC overlay. We would recommend that it goes back to where it was before, and one of the key reasons for that is for the bureaucracy of it all, so that y'all can take the initiative to make those decisions yourself without doing this whole long bureaucratic process, and so that you can really take ownership of what you've been elected to do. I am also here on behalf of the sacred life of plants and animals, and for the Ogwai People's Orchard, that I know that you probably didn't even know that it existed probably before, but it does exist, and it has been blessed, and it is a sacred place to us as Indigenous people, and for relatives of Margarita, and also Haley. And y'all should look it up, Ogwai, OG-WOY, because it's on mile marker 40 on the Jordan River Trail, and it is an orchard that was established by us as people, and it's a gift economy. You can go there, you can plant, you can garden, you can. It's a sacred place. I'm going to end with that. Just remember that we're all related, and as me, as someone who advocates for the unsheltered people, and also everything else, there's a reason why I do what I do, and that's because
Thank you, Carl.
They have no voice.
Always good to see you. All right, Larry Sugars and Nigel Swaby.
I agree with him. I agree with his last comment. And I want to thank you, the pickleball people. Also, I'd like to thank the city with the runoff. That's a huge deal. So far, my house is still dry. And I was here in '83 when it went crazy. So thank you for that. I think teamwork is huge. With that, not being disrespectful, but how do I get a hold of you? I've been calling you for weeks, sending you emails. I'm sending you texts. Please get a hold of me. That's a little offensive to me. I have personally invested a lot of money in the West Side, and there was a little comment earlier about seismic. Well, I bought houses, and I seismically upgraded because that was kind of what I used to do for a living. Another comment, you're with the mayor's group? I've been trying to get a hold of Lisa Schaefer for months. Does she still work for the city? Okay. It's bad as a citizen. I've only been here for 45 years, so I'm a transplant. But when people ignore you, that's very offensive. And I'm thinking, council people, part of it is you're here to, unless we're saying something stupid, I mean, you can tell us that, but please don't just ignore us. So, if I'm missing something, let me know. But thank you so much, and I appreciate you having meetings here. And Alejandro, I don't know if you had anything to do with it, but I don't remember these meetings before. So, thank you. No, this is a big deal. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pickleball.
Nigel Swaby, followed by Karina Villalba.
Good evening, Council. Welcome to Fair Park. My name is Nigel Swaby, and I'm the chair of the Fair Park Community Council. 3 of you already know that because we are a unique community in that we have 3 representatives from the City Council. Some people have thought that maybe that was a way to divide us, but our council believes it's a way to give us strength. And so when redistricting was considered last year, we've opted to keep 3 council members, so thank you. And for you who haven't been here before, welcome. I want to talk to you tonight about 2 important things that are happening in our community. The first one, which also makes us unique, is we're going to get a Major League Baseball stadium within the next few years. It's a tremendous opportunity economically. It will provide amenities for our community, jobs, all kinds of things. And I mean, for me, I see it as very positive, but there are people within our community who are scared. They're scared that they're going to get priced out of the place that they live. They're afraid of all of the sort of things that a transition and change will happen when this entire site is redeveloped. And so that's something that I want you guys to think about and figure out how we can mitigate those fears. The other big thing that we have in front of us, which is also very scary, is the I-15 expansion. And that's something that can also be seen as a threat or an opportunity. I think the idea of, the technical term is not bury the freeway, but it's cut and cover, which would remove that barrier from our neighborhood, is a tremendous opportunity. And we thank you and the mayor for supporting that idea. And on May 11th, Time. All right. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Nigel. All right, Karina Villalba and China Bravo.
Good afternoon. My name is Karina Villalba, and I actually got a few of my neighbors to come in. And so my neighbors are Spanish speaking and just asked that I be able to speak on some concerns that we have, as we are neighbors on a block. So this is Miss China Martinez, and in general, her sister is also here. We have a concern because we know that there's a lot of changes happening to Rose Park, a neighborhood that most of us have lived in for 30 plus years. What we are seeing as residents, for example, is on Wednesday night, our houses were surrounded. There were many, many law enforcement. There were paddy wagons. There were canine units. To my surprise, the next morning, I reached out to some law enforcement friends who seemed to know nothing about it. So the concern that comes from my neighbors and myself as well, who are all on one block, who are all surrounded, there was no information. It wasn't on the news. There was nothing. Again, reaching out to retired sergeants, West Valley PD, different people that we know who live in our neighborhood had no idea. So with the changes happening to Rose Park, our question is law enforcement increasing? Is there suppression? Is it based on the changes that are coming? And how is that an investment for us who have been long-term residents of this community, who have children? In our 3 houses combined, we total 17 children. And so that's the question and that concern, that we're not aware very well of what's happening with law enforcement. We want to be that voice. We want to support. We're thankful. They pulled 2 people out of our acre of a backyard with canine units. But again, as residents, we feel like we should know what's going on, what that was about, and really what's the circulation of law enforcement when, as part of the Bridge to Backman project, a project that helps provide a safer passage for children, in September, law enforcement stating to us that they are exhausted, that they are on mandatory overtime, and they cannot respond to our calls. But now, something different is happening.
Thank you. All right. China?
¿Segura? Ellos te traducen. That's all.
All right.
With what I said.
Gracias. The Yami Bravo family, followed by Leslie Evans.
Once again, Karina Villalba. I have the Bravo family with me. The Bravo family consists of six different property owners, more than just the home that they live in. So Mrs. Bravo right here, all of our children have gone to Salt Lake City School District schools, and so the request from this mother, which has everything to do with her youth, is when do we get a brand new library in Rose Park? Our Boys and Girls Club is closer to Central, or the front of the West Side. Our library, other places have new libraries. We do not. And so that's a question from the Bravo family, the mother of many children and also many grandchildren. When do we get our brand new library? She also wants me to add that we're a little concerned with all the potholes, because we almost had a car accident the other day with the potholes along 600 North going east to west, and also on 1000 North, also east to west. And we did make that comment on Facebook when the mayor and the community reached out for that.
Gracias por viniendo. Gracias. All right, Leslie Evans, followed by Bernie Hart.
Good evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of the collective of the Aguay People's Orchard and Garden. I have some written statements in support. I'm also bearing gifts for each district, to each city council district. The Aguay as a community collective is an example of how food can be free and accessible. It involves helping a fruit orchard and associated vegetable gardens thrive, with the intent of providing the produce grown to the plants, by the plants to the people in the community. It is a place to give to the overall health of the environment and to learn and teach community resiliency and caring. Anyone who has interest can join in the planting and caretaking of the project, and those who do so mostly do so as a gift, because we are all related. The land upon which the project sits is the ancestral homelands of the Ute and Shoshone people. And the word Aguay means river, because it is next to the Jordan River here in the Fair Park community. We must therefore give back to the land that was taken and create a way of providing nourishment for the soul and body to all who wish to be nourished. These are apple scions that have been grafted by people at the garden. And the Agwai is presenting a certificate and a scion for each of you for your district. Sorry, I'm thirsty. The Agwai People's Orchard and Garden Collective would like to extend a message of gratitude to you and your district for supporting our continued operation. Please take this tree and plant it in a public space for your district to enjoy for generations to come. The United States bred cultivar is called the Liberty Apple. Thank you for supporting Liberty and growing community with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your generosity.
May I give these to
Can
staff?
our recorder over here or staff? Thank you. All right.
I'll also leave.
Thank you, ma'am. Perfect. All right, Mr. Bernie Hart, followed by Lionel Trepernier.
I always come to council meetings with an edge on, because I do have an agenda, and I'm not happy with a lot of things that happen, but it was hard to not change how I felt in the meeting tonight with what went on before. The people coming together, the music, and the joy that I saw made me sort of just relax a little bit, and it was kind of cool. I think maybe you should really consider moving City Hall to the west side.
Right, I'm with you, but no
there's,
public.
away from downtown businesses and all the stuff that goes down there. You might get more done. You might have more fun doing your job. But that's not why I came here. We've started a little awareness campaign. I've made everybody aware of that, going around the city and bringing attention to the fact that there's not many homeless programs out there that are working. There's not much data out there that suggests anything is working, no matter how hard we try. And this lack of data, it really infringes on the decision-making process. So we will continue that campaign. And we are also partnering with Salt Lake Community College, and we have a primary investigator already to start a study and working with the homeless and really the hard-to-service homeless population to get personal histories and backgrounds, to see how many therapies they've been in, how many drug programs they've been in, how many times they've reached out for help and the programs failed them. Because that's the information you need to make good decisions. Not how much money they need, but how much good are they doing? Are they working? So I will continue my effort to bring attention to the fact that there's not much going out there that works, and a lot of money is being sent into the community on these hard-to-service individuals, and it's our job to find something that does work. So thanks, and really take my thoughts about the West Side and moving here seriously. We'd all be better off, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Bernie. We're going to move on to Lionel Trepernier and Dan Potts.
Hello, good evening. I'm Lionel Trepernier. I'm from District 3. I'm also a gardener at the Ogwai Garden. So I'm just going to tell you a little about my participation at Ogwai. I really enjoyed to ride my bicycle to the Ogwai Garden. It's nearby here. It is just along the Jordan River Trail. It's at mile marker 40. So I frequently come right on past the Fair Park on my way over to the Ogwai. I invite you, the council and our community to come and visit the Ogwai at on any time. It's your public lands that's being caretaken in this project called Ogwai. And this project is very meaningful for me because it gives me an opportunity to give back to my community. I like to do this on Sundays, usually like between 10 and 2, and we may be planting trees or pulling up those little weeds that pop our bicycle tires along the edge of that trail. It's a lot of work, but it's really a work of love. And we're at the Ogwai, we appreciate the administrations has stepped forward to work with us and the Wasatch Community Gardens to build a sustainable, long-term community asset at the Ogwai. So we appreciate the council coming out here, taking an interest in it. If you need a place to plant a tree, come on Earth Day. I will help you dig the hole. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dan Potts, followed by Jan McConkey.
As you said, Dan, my name is Danny, but I go by Dan. I'm basically considered the West Side's or the Jordan River Corridor's naturalist, especially here in this part of the city where I grew up. I went to school and got some degrees and came back to Salt Lake City to, volunteer my entire life away, basically. And I've been promoting nature ever since. So the organization that I'm with, the Salt Lake County Fish and Game Association, created in I think we incorporated in 1921, and we just held our 100th anniversary party a couple of years ago, and our mayor attended and had a great time. It was a great party, by the way. We held it up at the garden place up near the This Is the Place monument. Anyway, we promoted a project years ago on the 9 line in the Jordan River called the Fife Wetland Preserve, and Salt Lake City is not really well known for being is not really well known for being a good supporter of nature and wildlife in general. It never has been. And so we still don't even have a nature center or anything. But I promoted this wildlife preserve that's in the junction between the International Peace Gardens on one side and Fifth South Park on the other. And then, of course, the wetland, what is that? The little wetland area that Salt Lake City created. And then, of course, the 9 line going west. And we hope to put some orchards and stuff in there. Basically, it's the intersection of all these things. What happened is Envision Utah years ago conducted a survey and found that 72% of the people living along the Jordan River corridor were far more in favor of wildlife than playfields. And in fact, golf was going downhill and bird watching was going up. So we decided that we'd try to create a preserve. Unfortunately, Salt Lake City built a park. They're good at building parks. Well, wildlife's not interested in park. And so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Jan McConkey, followed by George Schaefer.
I am Jan McConkey. I would like to see paper ballots, hand counted, one-day voting, no ranking choice. Now, I know that's impossible because everybody's worked so hard to destroy those values that we once had, but at least I would like to let you hear my voice, and I do live on this side of town. I'm a small business owner. But it just means nothing.
Thank you. All right, George Schaefer, followed by Jeremy King.
I'm the other George H., different last name. We must be cousins of the person who spoke earlier. Anyway, a couple of things that's been on my mind for a long time, and this is not necessarily to the council, but to my friends and neighbors in the community. If we listen and read in the Old Testament, God just came real close to destroying the entire world because of the wickedness of the people. They were without order. They were breaking all of the commandments and just basically having a party all the time. Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord, according to a song that was popular in the 1950s, and he landed high and dry. Every community, every nation who is chosen to take God from their lives end up paying a very, very high price. The Romans are one in history that their basic desire was just to be entertained and to be partied. So they had people thrown into lions' dens and see how long they could survive amongst the lions and that sort of thing. They had no concern for human life. 40 or 50 years ago, there were bumper stickers, save the whales, save the seals. Today, there ought to be bumper stickers saying, save the babies. We're killing thousands of babies every year as a means of birth control, and that's another issue that needs to be addressed, is the fact that actions have consequences. And so when we do something that's wrong, we usually have to pay a price. There are other things I'd like to say, but the main thing is, until we as a nation, the people of the United States, return God to their lives, we will continue to suffer, and even more violently than we are now.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Jeremy King, followed by Natalia Hamilton.
Good evening, Salt Lake City Council. My name's Jeremy King. I'm a resident in Glendale, and I'm a pickleball player. While the proposed new Glendale Regional Park will be I think will be a fantastic amenity for our neighborhood, and in fact the whole of the west side, there is one glaring omission in the proposal for that project, and that is it does not include any pickleball court or playing facilities. We've been told that there is an idea to include something in a later phase of the project. It would involve at least a wait of about a minimum of 2 years before we could even get something included. In the meantime, we've been told that the interim solution will be to use blended striping on existing tennis courts. That doesn't work. There has been an attempt at doing that already on some of the tennis courts. Those 3 tennis courts are of no use to tennis players and pickleball players, and they sit idle. As you heard earlier, a lot of our players are now having to travel right across the city, in fact, to other cities further down the valley just to get a game in. We would like a pickleball court facility to be included in phase 1 of this project. In other words, to get it in as soon as possible, not in subsequent phases. Also, the idea of including courts on the west side of the existing tennis courts does not work. It's a dangerous little leftover piece of land between the courts and the surface canal. That won't work either. So there is no clear proposal to solve the solution in the way that the park is currently being proposed. And I would like you to address that in any way possible to try and include it in phase 1.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Natalia Hamilton, followed by Dan Steenblick. Thank you for the pronunciation, Key. So kind.
I'm here before you because I believe there is still a teardown order for the Agua Gardens, and they have been covered tonight, so I'm just going to say a few things. At the meeting last month or a couple weeks ago, you guys patted yourself on the back for being a progressive city council, and I'm hoping that you are, because I don't want you to kick this can down the road. I want each of you to do something, because you have a gem in this community of a gardens that allows anyone to come in to give their talents, their love, their time, free volunteerism. It's a model of mutual aid, not humanitarian saviorism. It's not bringing a dinner and paying for it one night. It's letting people come and building a community dinner all the time. And please do what you can as a city council to save this space. Some people have said we have Wasatch Community Gardens. Why do we need yours? This is not a model out of Wasatch Community Gardens, but God bless their hearts. There is no fee to garden here. There is no expensive plant sale. There is no one getting paid. This is where true community happens. What the mayor has done with her West Side Tree project,
that's unkept, unnatured, unnative. What the gardens here at Agway will do will be more for a community than those trees will ever do. And that's all I needed to say.
Thank you. We're going to move on to Dan Steenblick, followed by Jonathan Krausert.
Thank you, City Council, for being here. Dan Steenblick. I've been in the Rose Park, Fair Park area for, I don't want to admit it, but over 50 years. I ride along the Jordan River Trail and have noticed some concerns with a lot of branches that are in the Jordan River currently, along with the size, height of the bank, especially once you get past or get through the Rose Park Golf Course. At the north end of that golf course, the bank on the east side is just a foot or two below where the water is going to be hitting, and which means there's the potential for the water breaking through there, getting to the area which is not really housing, but it's public, or I think it's city property there, and the reclamation road is right there. And I don't know where the water will go if it gets through that, if it will go into any homes in the northern part of Rose Park, but just want to make sure that somebody is looking at the height of the riverbanks on both sides of the river, so that we're not inundated with water unnecessarily, if we can do something to prevent that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Jonathan Krausert, followed by Billy Palmer.
I'm just here because I need some water. I've been in Rose Park in a neighborhood since '86. I want to commend the city on the tree planting. A tree-lined street improves the temperature by 30 to 40 degrees. It is great that the city's trying to get rid of grass. One of the problems I see what's happening is it's becoming gravel. Gravel is carbon neutral. It doesn't filter sediments. It doesn't support trees, and besides that, it's thermodynamically, you can't stand on when it's 100 degrees outside. It's a heat sink. So the city needs to do something about that. Another thing I have a problem with is the fact that we have a lot of absentee landlords, and the neighborhood's disintegrating. As the old saying goes, I think in the 60s, the broken window, it's happening in a neighborhood. My wife and I walk the neighborhood a lot. Front yards have become dump sites, parking lots, well, which is good for the gravel because the car can park on the gravel and everything. And I don't believe the zoning department's doing its job properly. I don't know. Usually at the meetings, I have a picture I got to send it to this person on this far side. I don't know who I do it to here now, but this is a picture of personally of one of our neighbors at one of our houses that I've called several times. People are living in shacks, and the zoning department keeps on closing it. Yes, I understand there's a problem with homelessness, and the city's trying to do some things about it, but at the same time, when you own property in the neighborhood, you want your property to keep its value. You want to have safe streets, and the neighborhood's deteriorated quite a bit since '86, and I see it as a major problem, and I'm hoping that the city can do a better job on that end of it. I mean, I'm not rating the city very good. That's why I tried to praise it ahead of time before I started complaining. But thank you very much for having your time.
Thank you, Mr. Krausert. Billy Palmer, bring it home, Billy. Yep.
No pressure. Hi, I'd like to talk to you about the I-15 expansion, but before I do that, I want to just support Uncle Aoife, the governor of Glendale, and all the diehard pickleballers. But I'm sure you all know that I-15 is being proposed for expansion through the north side of the west side, and it is a major, major concern for the neighbors here who are becoming more and more aware of it. We are coalescing with major stakeholders here on the west side, including business holders, NeighborWorks, Sweet Streets, and just regular old people like myself. I'm a resident of Glendale, longtime proud West Sider, and also have been involved with and I know you have too, also involved with all of the redevelopment that's happened here, all the investment that's come through CRA money, to make sure that we have mixed income housing that fits this neighborhood, supplies houses for people who would not normally be able to buy homes, and we have businesses under threat, including one of our gems on the west side. We don't know where the city council stands on this, and we're not sure where the mayor stands on this, and I think that's one of the things we're concerned about, is that we don't know. We urge you to take a stand with us to find solutions for transportation through this part of the state. We don't need more cars, we don't need more pollution, and we don't need to get rid of houses that we just recently developed in order to give this neighborhood a chance at survival. We need your help in this, and we're urging you to stand with us on finding solutions that does not mean an expansion and takes away square miles of our neighborhood. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Billy. All right, is there anyone who would like to comment who did not get a card in? This is your going once, going twice? All right. Thank you to everyone who made comments. We are now moving on to new business, and we have no new business items, which then brings us to unfinished business, which item I1 is a resolution about convention and tourism assessment area. I will look for a motion.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Dugan to approve the CTAA, a second from Councilmember Wharton. Any discussion on this item? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. And now this brings us to our last item of business under the consent portion of the agenda. I'll look for a motion. I've got a motion from Councilmember Wharton, a second from Councilmember Dugan. Those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion carries. This concludes our formal City Council meeting on the west side. The council's formal meeting now stands adjourned. Thank you for attending. Please continue to attend our future meetings. We love your participation, and we're glad you were here. Thank you.
Well, I don't think smoking is grown up at all. Because it's very dangerous. Smoking does dreadful things to your lungs, and is very bad for your heart.